Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. My name is Travis Perkins with Portello, and I'll lead this webinar series, but also know that I am here with my colleagues, Eddie and Brianne. If you have had an opportunity to work with them as well, great, you'll recognize their names. If not, and you have some questions as we go through this, please reach out to myself or to Eddie and Brianne directly. So right now we're going to kick off this webinar series, the NetSuite 2024.2 release highlights and tips. Just a quick slide on Meet the Portello team for today. And then let's move on to a little bit about Portello. So I see here, just looking at the folks that have joined us today, thank you again. We have a lot of customers here, but also I see a few newer to Portello. So a brief intro. We're a top solution provider and SDN partner of Oracle NetSuite. We've helped over 400 NetSuite customers optimize their uses of NetSuite. So some of the services we offer are, reporting, saved searches, KPIs, full implementations from beginning to end, customization, scripting, and business process consulting. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as well here as we go through this. I want to start off by, we'll show the list, and here is a little bit of background on how we evolve in this list, this top 10. You may have, if you're part of our emailing, received some communications about the enhancements for 2024.2 release. And if you have recently been updated or upgraded, or you're about to be, you get that message when you log in. This is from the release notes, right? And we take what we have worked with our customers throughout the year and look at what the release notes offer and weigh in what our top 10 could be. So we're going to present those here, but you also may have received an email if you're on the emailing list regarding some of these. If you're not on our email list and are interested in joining, just hit our website and you can get connected with that in that regard. So a little bit about, before we get to number one, I want to talk about is this release readiness. So when we're talking about release notes, right, that's what's going to be the enhancements that NetSuite has worked on throughout the year. And when they upgrade your version, those enhancements are going to be included in your version. There is an opportunity to use the release preview in your system, and if you don't know what release preview is, you can certainly check that out on NetSuite site, or reach out to me directly, and I can give you some information. I'm going to share my screen here real quick. Well, I'm already sharing my screen, but I'm going to share NetSuite, and I want to show you this. So in your when I hover over my name, you would see down here like sandbox, right? But there will also be one that says RP, that's release preview. So if you don't have that, get it before NetSuite takes it away. So it's there temporarily before you're upgraded in your version, but release preview allows you an opportunity to test what you have in your system. It's already been upgraded. It's separate from your production environment, but it's a mirror of your production environment. Something I want to add is that you can use it to your advantage if you don't have a sandbox and you have thought of like, hey, I'd really like to do some inventory changes, but you don't want to do it in production, or you've been putting it off because it's a lot of work to realize what those changes are, run your financials, rerun them after your change. When you get release preview, go in there and do those things, test it out while you have that opportunity. And it's also an opportunity, obviously, to make sure things are going to work when your production system is actually going to be upgraded when it gets to that upgraded version. So use it to your advantage. All right, I'll pause there here as I move on to the next slide.
We do have a question on whether that's automatic or not, Travis.
Oh, thank you, Eddie. That's a great question. Release preview is not automatically in your system. You need to request it, and there's a way you can do that inside of NetSuite. So when you request release preview, NetSuite will provide that to you, and then you'll show it down there like I showed it on the drop down. When you hover over your name, RP will be there, and that will be your system momentarily before you're upgraded that you can go in and test. So let's keep moving forward. And I want to talk about number one, CRM roles. So if you are familiar with the employee center role and you've used it, and or if you're not, let's talk about it a little bit. It's an abbreviated role, and that role is very limited. If you assign that role to a user, you log in, you don't get anything at the top, no menus, but there are some navigational pieces that you have an opportunity to submit an expense report, a requisition, look at like your company's hierarchy, and do some calendaring and keep track of some information for you. Now, that's all you can do with that employee center role. So I'm bringing it up because it's similar now. NetSuite's offering this CRM role, and it's also available at a reduced cost like the employee center role. So here are some points here to take away. You're not going to be navigating into AP. It doesn't have the access like the full access role has, but when you issue this CRM role, you have the ability to navigate campaigns, and I'm talking about this second bullet point specifically, right? Opportunities, quotes, sales orders, all of those pieces that are surrounding CRM functional processes. So that's that CRM role. That's a specialized user. That is what NetSuite refers that to, but the user is what you issue the role to. So you have now an opportunity to have a reduced cost role aside from that employee center role. So the next one is that view and approve role. This I really appreciate, because in the past we have worked with clients where they needed somebody who isn't in NetSuite all the time or at any time, but they needed that individual or through the process of approving transactions in NetSuite for that user to come into NetSuite. So we have done some customizations around that, and this allows us even greater capability to do some customizations around that. And if you take away what I said about the customizations and just use the native role, they are offering this view and approve role that now allows that user to log in. Again, limited functionality. You wouldn't be able to add additional permissions. Same thing with that CRM role. You can't just continue to add on to it. The system won't allow you to, because you've paid a reduced cost for that, and it's not going to give you full access, but it will give you access to view and approve transactions in the system. So I really appreciate that they did this, because a lot of the clients that we work with, and you may be able to relate, is you don't need a full access role, but you do need an abbreviated one that could do some functions like these, like the CRM, the view and approve role. All right, I'll switch back and forth where I have an instance with some of these enhancements that I'm describing. Let's move on to the Customer 360 update. If you're not familiar with Customer 360, I really appreciate what they did here too, because it is giving you a opportunity during your day, your functional day, to just move quickly, not be inundated with a lot of information, and you can get right to it by the 360 Customer 360 dashboard. I call it this page. So if you look at the anatomy of this page, you now have recent records. You have sales performance information, and then product recommendation. Now, over here, you can read after product recommendations are configured here. So in the system, when I took this screenshot, I didn't have it in there. But when you are selling products to your customer and you have this configured, NetSuite is going to give you that quick view of what products you could recommend to your client. And say, for instance, in your order processing department, or from a CRM perspective, you're moving quickly, right? And you want to be able to have immediate information. You take a call or you're calling out, you can grab that information immediately on this record by using the Customer 360 page and then working with these enhancements. Let's see here. I think I was just thinking about what I could show you in NetSuite, but let's go to the next slide here real quick and move on to SuiteBilling. And when I get into NetSuite, I'll come back to the 360 enhancements. So we're going to talk about SuiteBilling. SuiteBilling, if you're not familiar with it, is it's a module within NetSuite, and we have customers that when they're using SuiteBilling, they're also using a revenue recognition model along with that. they go hand in hand, but they don't have to be purchased together. But SuiteBilling is a separate module. These are the updates to that module. Now, if you're not familiar with SuiteBilling, just real quick on that is if you have subscription models, an example would be you're providing internet services, which is a subscription model, but you also have a hardware component to that. We're going to talk about that hardware component in addition to the services. What they did was they enhanced the product by providing you the ability to split that subscription. So again, I'm talking about things that these are enhancements, but I'm going to show on this sales order here that when you add a subscription to your sales order, your subscription has already been templated, configured with the subscription piece, and it might be multiple lines for that. And then also your hardware components for that tangible item, that will allow the splitting allows that line on the sales order to be split out to that hardware and that software, that subscription component. So what I'm showing you here is in number 1, the red dot, you're clicking that, and that's telling NetSuite to split that subscription out, which is already split out. That's what that line shows here. In 2, what I'm describing is, and I blew it up a little bit here in this window, this box, is NetSuite's making a relationship so that the end user knows, and it's accountable, that it's the system's accountable to you, so that you know the subscription that you selected on the sales order is now split out, and it makes the relationship for you, that subscription item and the related subscription. That's what this is here in this red box. Okay, so that's an enhancement that NetSuite has done for you in SuiteBilling. I appreciate that, because a lot of the times when you're just adding subscription on here, you don't get a good read of what that subscription is. So you really have to know a lot more. Here it's giving you a lot more information that you can work with. I want to talk about reminders. Still in the SuiteBilling module, this update that they are providing is giving you the ability to use reminders. And if you aren't already, and I'm going to bring up NetSuite here real quick. If you're not using the dashboard, I suggest that you check it out and start using your dashboard. Now in this system, I'm going to move to the dashboard. I'll talk about this here in a little bit, what the page that I'm on, but let's go to the dashboard real quick. These are portlets when it loads. Each one of these boxes are portlets. And what I'm referring to for SuiteBilling is they're giving you now an opportunity to add reminders to this reminder portlet. So back to my screen here, my screenshot is that when you can configure this subscription pending activation, you can add that to the portlet. And there's other ones that you can add to the portlet as well. So let's keep moving forward. Waiting for my mouse to work here. So speaking of reminders, the subscription activation email reminders on the subsidiary record. Now, if you don't have this subsidiary record is from a OneWorld account. If you have questions about, well, what is a OneWorld account and what is OneWorld capability, I'm just showing this subsidiary record, meaning a company within NetSuite. You might have one or many. NetSuite refers to it as a subsidiary record. What SuiteBilling is now offering is the ability to send subscription activation reminders via email in bulk. And you also have an opportunity to add, and I'm reading here in this red box, and I'm identifying where these enhancements reside. So if you've already been upgraded to 2024.2, you'll find these in your system if you're using SuiteBilling. And then also the opportunity to this one right here, the subscription activation reminder email recipient, you can fill that in. This I'm not in edit mode, so it's blank down here, but that's where you can fill in your own email. And then I like the fact that they're providing that email template. So you don't have to type out what you're sending out every time. The email template is there for you to put that language in ahead of time. Remove that from having the end user have to figure out what the language is going to be in that email communication. You can just call out the template here and then send that out. So I really appreciate that they did this, because again, it's providing efficiency within within operating your SuiteBilling processes. So let's continue to move on. I'm going to talk a little bit about the returns of fulfillment items. They didn't previously have opportunity to, in your SuiteBilling processes, to do returns. The screenshot here you may be familiar with. It's like, oh, of course, right? Issue return authorization. It's the same functionality. So what we're referring to is being able to issue returns through SuiteBilling. And now also you also have the opportunity to more opportunity in the fulfillment process to leverage the functionality on fulfillments and then returns. So basically, SuiteBilling, you now can do return authorizations through the normal process. If you're already doing returns and you don't even have SuiteBilling in your system, it's that process. It's the same menu item. All right, we're going to move on to something very simple, very quick. This enhancement, I appreciate because of the 3 reporting mechanisms in NetSuite, which are save searches, the report builder reports, and then analytics. And I didn't highlight it over here, but in the menu up at the top next to reports is analytics. And I do from time to time speak with some customers that they ignore that they have analytics up there. They've never clicked on it. They've passed by it, or you know how the day goes. It just every day is quick, and then it's over, and then you come back into NetSuite the next day and you still see analytics, but you've ignored it. In analytics, it's another reporting mechanism and it gives you a lot of autonomy to build your data structure and in your workbook and report on that. These icons here in this box is identifying a pivot table. So you can do pivot tables within the analytics workbooks. And what I'm referring to is this enhancement, exporting that data, that pivot table data directly to Excel. That's the enhancement. I told you it was going to be quick. But if you're not familiar with analytics, don't be afraid to get in there and jump in, make some reports, build some data sources, build some pivot tables, and then if you need to, export those out to Excel. We're going to move on to Benchmark 360. This is an interesting feature to me, and we'll see how it evolves. So in Benchmark 360, and I'll share my screen again, it's a unique product that is available to you to use. You just need to go out to the marketplace and get it. So here, what I've done is I've clicked on the SuiteApps menu, and if I type in benchmark, so here's 360, and I'm going to click on it, and it'll tell me over here it's been installed. So I'm just giving you a little insight into how SuiteApps could potentially work for you when you're looking for things that might be available to you that you don't have to pay for. And it's not just like Benchmark 360 I'm talking about, as you saw on the previous screen. There's a lot here that you may be able to do in your system in SuiteApps. But in Benchmark 360, you can click that over here where it says installed, you can install it. It'll install, and then it's available for you to use. While I have been talking, you probably read a little bit about it, but it's how you in your industry measure up to folks, other companies in your industry, same industry, and in your region. So there's some preferences here that I configured in the system. This system has, it's a multi-subsidiary system. You can see this here. And I'm just going to run through real quick so that you're familiar with it. Is you have to select your industry, your region, and your company size. Then what NetSuite does is it takes that information for other companies out there and uses some AI in letting you know where you measure up. So on each one of these, you can click and it's going to give you a different graphical representation of how you weigh in. Now, here's something interesting. Down below on Benchmark 360 is, say for instance, as NetSuite is looking at how you measure up in your industry, it also is looking at your account on how you may benefit from using other products in NetSuite to, maybe you could say gain that upper hand, so to speak. So for instance, maybe you would benefit from bill capture processes. It'll recommend that. That's what these products are down here below. like electronic invoicing or the, payment link. Payment link, by the way, is pretty sweet if you haven't used that either. But this is what Benchmark 360 is. So two things I just went over is how do you measure up? It's giving you that demographic, and then also products and features that may help you future wise enhance and increase efficiencies in your company. What NetSuite did was they updated it so that when you're on these, they gave a I'm trying to get here to come up. You see the $ on my screen. They added currency symbols. So for instance, the base currency for this is USD. In this particular instance, it's showing the $ symbol for the subsidiary represented here in the upper right corner. All right. Then also, if you're already using this, you'll probably recognize that I'm going to move this out of the way. Let me get this to respond here. You probably recognize that it was all spelled out. It was Benchmarks 360 workbook. It was a lot of words in there. They just abbreviated to B360 so that it wasn't so cumbersome in trying to navigate around these preferences. Not a big deal, but it is an enhancement. And I just wanted to speak about Benchmark 360. It's because it's very interesting coming from NetSuite, what they've incorporated into your instance. Pretty cool stuff. So now we're going to move on, and I would like to reintroduce Brianne, right? So Brianne and I have worked together for years along with Eddie, but Brianne's going to talk about supply planning workbench updates. And if you, again, if you haven't had experience working with Brianne, she is incredible amount of knowledge when it comes to NetSuite. She's going to speak about these areas, wholesale distribution. If you have questions about it and you want to discuss more, reach out to Brianne or reach out to your PM that you may be already working with at Portello. Brianne, go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Travis. So we'll be going over just the updates that were released in 2024.2 that in regards to the supply planning module in NetSuite. First one is excluding transactions from your supply plan refresh run, right? Or repository refresh. So if you've worked with supply plan before, you've probably experienced frustrations when the supply plans fail right after hours and hours of the run. This then will impact the ability of your users to see the workbench as well as start analyzing planning suggestions. With the upgrade, there's now a new checkbox field available on transactions titled Exclude from Supply Plan. Once you check that box on the transaction, right, save the record. Thus, when you refresh your repository, NetSuite will ignore that transaction and it'll continue with the refresh, right? Why would you exclude transactions from the refresh? The order may have issues, right? One popular issue that frequently comes up is where specifically on work orders, where the parent assembly item is a component of that work order item, you can exclude those orders, right? And have your repository refresh successfully. Second one is your minimum order quantity, right? Now it can be combined with other lot sizing methods. So previously, minimum order quantity or MOQ was its own lot sizing method. You selected that on the location level of the item record. With the update, you now can select any lot sizing method, lot for lot, fixed lot size, and you can also assign or establish a minimum order quantity for that specific lot sizing method. On the next slide, you'll notice that the lot sizing method is lot for lot right there, right? And that the minimum order quantity field now is no longer disabled. You can set a minimum order quantity. The third update extends the planning horizon and purchase lead times beyond 1 year, right? This is especially helpful for those clients, if you have customers that have sales orders or contracts that extend over a year and you want to be able to plan or have NetSuite project purchase orders, transfer orders beyond the 1 year limitation it used to have, right? So that's, you can now go further than the 365 days when you refresh your repository. Fourth is your supply plan pre-check. Report for cycle errors, right? This is a game changer that assists a lot of our, with the MRP refresh, right? Now, before it completes its run, it'll do a pre-check first for any errors, right? Any errors that may cause the refresh to fail. That pre-check report will include the items, the transactions, the offending transactions that impact the supply plan failure, and a message on how to correct those issues, right? This is especially useful for those accounts where you have several, right, items that, and the refresh can take hours to complete. So now instead of waiting for the refresh to complete, it'll report out for you how to correct those pre-cycle errors and then complete the refresh once those are fixed. The last is your workday calendar for purchase orders, right? Previously, NetSuite used to use the entire week, right? Sunday to Saturday when calculating your vendor lead times. Now you have the ability to create a calendar that can exclude weekends, holidays, or any custom non-operational days that your facility might have. This will help, this leads to more realistic expected receipt dates that NetSuite is suggesting on your purchase orders instead of, outrageous dates that will cause you to miss your production or shipping deadlines. Okay, so those are the 5 supplanning updates. We'll move on to the cost variance SuiteApp. Now this is, you can get the SuiteApp. So Travis had shown, where you can install this SuiteApp on NetSuite. You will follow that same process when he showed installation of the Benchmark 360 SuiteApp. This is also a free SuiteApp, so very good for manufacturers. This SuiteApp will provide you a view to the variances, right, between your planned and actuals for work orders that are in progress and does not use the standard costing method. Right, the variances include your components, your planned components versus what was issued on the work order, your operation times versus actual times, and planned labor costs versus actual labor costs. This will give you visibility into your production performance and help you make corrections before your production is complete. Okay. Thanks, Travis. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Brianne. Appreciate it. Let's see here. We're gonna click on this next slide. Oops, sorry, Brianne, I missed a slide on that one, I think. It didn't show in time. But thank you. So electronic invoicing, Eddie's going to talk about that. Now, Eddie on our team, he's the director of technology on our team, and he is, again, we've all been working together for quite a number of years, and just a quick introduction. When it comes to integrations, customizations in NetSuite, Eddie has just been hugely valuable resource to us internally, to our clients. He's going to talk a little bit about the electronic invoicing SuiteApp.
Hello, everyone. So high level, if you're not already familiar with the electronic invoicing SuiteApp, there's 2 main components to it. So it can handle both incoming and outgoing documents. So for inbound document processing, essentially you can receive documents from vendors that then automatically convert them into bills into the system. Outbound is similar, but you're sending it to other people, right? So customers or vendors or even tax agencies. There are a lot of different ways to do electronic invoicing. This is kind of NetSuite's out-of-the-box method to do it. So the update, which we're going to talk about on the next slide, is effects versions after 9.05. So there's a few highlights. A lot of the changes were actually back-end efficiency changes, but some that may be of interest if you're already using it, especially is there's a much better integration with Avalara now, meaning those tax calculations can go through smoothly. You can customize outgoing client and supplier emails. So rather than having a very generic email to your client or supplier, you have a lot more fine-grained control over the look and feel of those messages. There were some additional statuses were supported, for instance, canceling a status. And then there's more templating support. So if you haven't implemented it yet, that may be of interest because it can often make those implementations a little faster. It gives us a template out of the box to work with rather than needing to build one from scratch. They have many, many, many templates. These are a few others that they've now added. And then also some bug fixes. I don't think this affected too many, but when it did affect you, it really affected you. So before, you could only send internally an email to 10 administrators in your account if something was going on with that system. Now it supports more than 10, so you can send it to every administrator in the system rather than just the first 10. So certainly some quality of life improvements. If you don't have that or you want to talk about maybe getting it, of course, we'd be happy to help you.
Thank you, Eddie. You'll probably realize here in this next section my appreciation for the payments module. So EBP, electronic bank payments module. This is sometimes I still get questions about, right, what is this payments menu here? And real quick to outline it, and NetSuite did again a nice job adding some character to the payments module for the enhancements that are in this next version. So payments module gives you the ability to simultaneously pay a vendor a bill payment record. It's going to create and generate an ACH file. So when you go into this process, you can pick and just to back up just real quick, you'll need your vendor's bank detail information, right? And you also have to put your actual company's bank information in here. It uses that to generate the ACH file, which is highly encrypted the way that it's structured. But once it's completed and you have all those vendor payments in that ACH file, you can load that into your bank's portal. So let's talk about the enhancements. And you'll start to realize how much they have done. If you use it, there's a lot of nuances that will help you. Okay, this first one is the amount from and amount to. So down below, and I didn't show it, but this left-hand slide is where you would be selecting a range of vendor bills from 400 to 455 in my example, that will only show up in the list. So I mean, if you have pages and pages of vendor bills that you're going to be paying, you can limit it to that range. Pretty sweet. So then on the right-hand side, you also have now the ability to put in a return email address, your own. You can select from some of the native fields, or you can actually enter in a custom return email. I can't tell you for so many years how many times people have asked, can we do that? And we've created customizations for that. Now you can just do it. So continuing on. The addition to reporting. So you can either use it in criteria or results, and that's kind of shaded here in the background of this left-hand screenshot, is to add total payments. So they added this field to the search. Earlier, I talked about the 3 reporting mechanisms: save search, analytics, and the report builder reports. This is a save search report here that I'm showing the configuration of. You get the idea. On the right-hand side, if I add total payments as a result set, here I didn't use any customer names, so you just see numbers, but like vendor ID, 1344, their total payments have been 61. So it gives you the opportunity to start reporting on that information. And by the way, let me go back one. PFA, that's the payment file administration. Search PFA, just abbreviated that. You'll see that in NetSuite nomenclature as well. So then here, the ability, if you are using approval processes within the payments module, you can now override it. So for instance, if Eddie and Brianne have configured a process for payments processing not using the payments module, because you may still have checks that you're writing, and I'm the one who's processing through, Eddie and Brianne are the one who are approving. Well, now you have the ability in your processes to just override it participating in the payments module. So that's a nice option. On the left-hand side is the payment module. On the right-hand side, you are familiar with the accounting preferences, vendor payments, approval, routing. So we'll continue on. The ability to send reminders, another great feature, because when you're using the approval process, as I've spoke, the days go fast and you need some reminders. You can get reminder emails to approvers for those for the approval routing that's sitting out there. It's enabled when you have when the total amount exceeds that payment approval process. All right, we're going to keep going. Yeah, so support to display credit transactions, which is great because before it just showed everything. Now you can do you can include and excuse me, I should preface back up and say everything bill wise. Now you can include all credits as well. And you can also use that to filter on those transactions. So that's a nice addition to that, especially if you're doing a lot of credits. So now I'm going to show NetSuite here real quick. And let's see, we're going to go to set up a bank record. Let's see if there's any here in this list in the system that I have. All right. ACH. When we go in and configure, so this this demo account that I'm using, this company has 3 different banks that they're using for vendor payments. Let's edit one of these. Sorry for the wait. It shouldn't take too long here to load. And you know, they don't put any horsepower to these demo accounts. So it's probably, I'll keep talking here to make my point. If you're using approval routing, and I'm going to click it on it down here on my screen on the menu, it's just waiting for it to load. Okay. All right. You won't see it in here, and I'm going to make this point here in just a minute about the upgrade. But this is what we're talking about in the payments module, the ability to set up approval routing for those payment batches. So I'll paint the picture. If I go out and I create a payment file or a payment process that will generate that file and simultaneously pay those bills in NetSuite, before it gets to that point and you've enabled, like here, Carol is going to be a level 1 approver. Well, depending on the amount, 900, you know, is what's the payment limit here, then it's going to have to go through an approval process and it'll go to Carol. So what will happen is that batch, you can create that batch, you can go audit and edit that batch, and it won't actually process the payments and generate the ACH file until it's approved. So now back to the slide, you see here, there's a payment approval role. So if Eddie is out of town and he primarily approves those batches, if you add an administrator role, and in this example, I put my name in here, Travis Perkins, right? But Eddie's approving. Well, if you add an administrator role and Brianne logs into NetSuite as the administrator role, she will be able to approve these bill payment batches. Okay, so just know that they added this. So if I'm on sabbatical for a month, and or Eddie is, then you still you don't have to go in here and change names for the payment approver and interrupt that level 1, 2, 3, however many you have. You can add an approver role to that and then just keep moving on. So I really appreciate that. Now, one thing that I wanted to show, because this system, if I go to the dashboard, we'll go down here, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and identify here on the screen, it says 2024.2. But why didn't we see this enhancement in this system? It's not in here because, one, the demo account hasn't been updated. But what I would like to tell you in a previous webinar that we did is if you have a sandbox, it's not going to be updated. You will have to manually go update it. So I come over here to the bundles that are installed in this system, and I already know that the electronic payments module is, there's an update available. I would need to manually do that in my sandbox. Since it's managed, you can see this yes right here in this managed column. In your production system is when it'll get upgraded by NetSuite. They'll do that. In sandbox, you'll need to do that. So here, if I would have selected here, update, before we got onto this webinar today, I would have been able to proceed through here. And this is a demo account, so it's not going to let me do it. But you'll do that in Sandbox is my primary point if you don't see those enhancements. So let's continue on. I'm waiting for, I might have clicked now too many times. Okay, here we go. There was a delay, so there still is. Get it under control. The last one in the electronic bank payments module is including the tax returns discounts. This is a nice feature. It is also only applicable to accounts that have Suite Tax feature disabled. And by the way, if you haven't read up on Suite Tax and you use taxation in your system, that's coming. That's going to be here to stay. Moving on to general enhancements. I wanted to talk about this at the end. A few things. So if you are familiar with NetSuite planning and budgeting, NetSuite account reconciliation and bill capture, they're all going to be now labeled under what NetSuite refers to as EPM. If you're already on these SKUs, you'll already and continue to identify those on your licensing as I have them spelled out in 1, 2, and 3 bullet points. Otherwise, if you don't have any of these and you're just maybe now coming into NetSuite and you're going to purchase licensing, these will be under EPM. And so let's talk a little bit about the enhancements here to the account reconciliation portion. So it's number 2. Let me roll back. Sorry about that. I clicked inadvertently. So in NetSuite account reconciliation, by the way, different than just the normal reconciliation processes in NetSuite, the native ones, which refer to as bank and credit card reconciliation. This is a separate module, NetSuite account reconciliation, NSAR. What they've done is they've enhanced it by they've given you the ability to assign team members to processes in the account reconciliation processes and to customize activities. And they also give you a centralized monitoring page that they didn't have before. So I'm just going to speak these here towards the end. If you have it and you're using it, check that out in either your release preview or your production environment when it's upgraded. Bill capture. So for bill capture, and if you don't, if you don't aware, or if you're not aware, I'll tell you this: is bill capture in NetSuite. There are 2 things. You could take and drag and drop a bill from your vendor into the screen, bill capture screen in NetSuite, and it will allow you to process and create a bill from that. All right, so you don't have to manually input a bill anymore. That's bill capture. Bill capture process also, there is an email capture process that you can do. You can have your vendors send the bills to NetSuite, and NetSuite will use AI to bring that into the system and create a bill. It doesn't do it automatically. You have autonomy to make sure that bill is situated by company, line, subsidiary, all those facets of a bill record, but bill capture is what allows you to do that more efficiently rather than having somebody key them in on a daily basis. So I know I went into detail of describing that. I just wanted you to know it's one of those things that if you're not using it, you maybe should be, because it provides a lot of efficiency there. That's my suggestion. But what they did was they improved the ability for the machine learning to read the subsidiary vendor and location mapping logic. That everything's evolving. So when they introduced it, they continued to grow it and upgrade it so that it works better. And continuously improving with that process for you. And then the drag and drop, which I explained, dragging and dropping that file into the bill capture page. They made additional enhancements in there for machine learning for that to be more efficient. All right. Now I'm going to switch away from this to workforce management. If you're using workforce management, there are some additional features that they added that I think are hugely beneficial in reporting. So when you are keeping track of your employee or your contractors' activities, when they're logging time, you are giving them now the ability to, or by automation, mapping product, location, task, project, and job on those entries, which when the data is consistent, you can consistently report on it in NetSuite. So that's that first portion of the workforce management enhancements. The next thing is the full break compliance. You may be operating in areas where compliance to take a full break is mandatory. It's required by law, and NetSuite is not now. It gives you the ability to prevent that break from being signed in from until it is actually completed, right? No short break time. It's got to be the time has have to elapse before they can actually get back into their work by punching back in. So that's that full break compliance on the workforce management enhancements. And if you would like to ask a question offline, here one that we don't share, ask afterwards. Reach out to me. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide with my information. There's also a QR code here that Rachel from our team has added. And you can scan that, or when you get the recording, you can go through the recording again, and the QR code will be there at the end if you want to scan it at a later time. Reach out to me directly or your PM that you're already working with here at Portello, and we'll help you out on anything NetSuite, whether it's general functionality, need some walkthroughs, you want to work through some business processes, we can help you with that. And then integrations, we talked about that earlier as well.
Looks like there is a question on determining whether they're on 2024.2 or whether the enhancement is available. And I know that's a mix of both the account and the SuiteApp potentially being updated. You want to talk a little bit more about that again?
On some dashboards, on your dashboard, you will have a 2024. I showed it in one of the screenshots earlier on in the webinar. It'll tell you that either 2024.2 is on its way for you, for your instance, or it has already been installed. When somebody asks me about it, my immediate go-to is hitting the home button, or you can hover over it and go to dashboard, and then scroll down to the bottom of your page, all the way at the bottom. And here it will show this particular instance that I'm in is 2024.2. If you're in production, NetSuite's going to handle that for you automatically on the date that they've set. And you will have received communications regarding when that upgrade is going to be. And those communications come both in email when you're an administrator of the account, and it also comes when you're logging into the account, and you have to identify that you've read it by clicking a checkbox. And then, like I said, to continue that, if you have and are using a sandbox or multiple sandbox accounts, it will be upgraded, but there are certain elements of bundles that you'll need to go manually upgrade yourself. And I showed that earlier when we went over to customizations, Suite Bundler, and then a list of the bundles that are in the system. I'll just go back there here real quick. And earlier, I clicked on that upgrade, right? You see some of these, and you'll see these in production too. But if it's managed, NetSuite or whoever the provider is will upgrade those for you. In Sandbox, they will not. They rely on you to do that now. Let's see, what time is it? So I think if you want to stay on for a few minutes, I'll do 2 more minutes of navigating around. Brianne mentioned SuiteApps. Again, here it is. Just referencing again, I just clicked on it. This is the SuiteApp store. You can come here and search out all kinds of products that are available to use or integrate with NetSuite. And all I did was type in Benchmark 360 was my example. And then you can see, right, there's 122 ERP products, there's 111 retail products, and so on down here. Analytics, I'm going to click on analytics. I didn't show that. The analytics workbook in this system, there's probably several. Yeah, there's a lot that just comes canned in here. And since I installed B360, there's multiples that they provided, and you can take these workbooks and spin them off into your own, or you can proceed and make your own from scratch. So there's a number here that came with this system, and that will come with your instance as an example to get you started. And then one other thing I explained, right, the difference in reporting. Most of the reports under here, when you get into like financials, purchases, vendors, the AR aging, all of those are report builder reports. And you can clearly identify the difference between a save search report or a report builder report, and then also the way that you customize them and add or subtract information data from them. And then in the background again is analytics. I clicked on that icon at the top. You might not have some of these menu items depending on what your role is and the permissions that you have in NetSuite as well. Okay. I don't see any other questions. Eddie, if I'm missing anything, please let me know.
No, that was perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Otherwise, yeah, we'll go. Again, thank you for joining us today. Myself, Travis Perkins, Brianne Fausto, and Edward Atter. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Bye.